Hey, it's Dan Moralez. This is Homebuyer Radio, episode number 136. Okay, so for the last several weeks, we've been talking about, the differences between kind of a pre-qualification, pre-approval, why on that pre-approval process, if you will, we require so much more documentation as part of that process versus, just a quick pre-qualification, right? Recap, pre-qualification is just kind of my opinion as to what I think I can get done for you on a mortgage. It's not based on any facts or any verified information, where a pre-approval is based on the actual information that we are able to verify towards your, income, assets, and good stuff like that. So you're always going to want to get a formal pre-approval, and you're going to want to get that pre-approval early in this process. Okay, you're going to want to do that prior to starting the home buying process, especially if you are going to be buying for the first time. Now, if you're going to be buying for the second time, okay, maybe you have a house to sell and you want to buy that next house and you want to, get a better understanding of what all those numbers look like. That is one massive reason why you need to get to the bank before you start this process, okay? A lot of times, whether you're buying for the first time or you're buying for the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever time it is, a lot of times what happens is clients start this process by going to the realtor, okay? There's nothing wrong with, working with a good, well-qualified realtor. We highly recommend that you do that, okay? But what happens is they start this process and, they start, going to, house hunt, if you will, without really understanding the details of, the big financial picture of what it's going to look like. What do you hope to sell your house for? What do you hope to walk away with from the sale of your house? What do how much of that money are you planning on putting into the next property? And what are those terms going to look like when you get to that next property? Okay. So it's, again, one more thing, I beat on this horse, time and time again, where you really need to get started, in the mortgage process first. Okay. That needs to be your first stop. Okay. How often do we go shopping when we don't have any money? Okay. Most of us don't have the ability to pay cash for a house, which means we're going to need a mortgage. So if we need a mortgage before we go out and start shopping for a house, we should probably make sure we can get a mortgage, and should probably make sure what the terms of that mortgage are going to be, what the cost is going to be, the monthly payment, what kind of cash do I have to have into it, do I qualify, all of these different things that people always do last. And it's frustrating for me as a mortgage person. That's part of why I do this podcast, okay? I do this podcast. Obviously, I do it to, if you will, increase the business we do, to be able to hopefully, demonstrate to people that we know what we're talking about, we know what we're doing, and when you're ready to get a mortgage, we want to be the people that you work with, okay? So, that's the primary reason for doing this podcast, besides, of course, educating people about the home buying process. But it is so frustrating as a loan officer, okay? I've done this since 1991. I see this all the time. People go out, let's go look for a house, and then let's think about getting the money afterwards, okay? And then what happens is, my job becomes trying to fix the number of problems that clients have that they don't even know they have. Right? They don't know that their recently commissioned income is going to be a problem. They don't know that, the late payments they paid on their credit card is going to be a problem. And by the way, just because you think you have perfect credit, don't assume that you do, okay? I've talked about this in a different episode. I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but I need to do this because what happens is there's a lot of you that you think your credit's perfect, and in all honesty, it probably is perfect, but what happens was there was something that reported on your credit report that you had no idea about, okay? I'm going to give you an example. I had a client who had a really high credit score, and a great client of mine for north of 10 years. I can't even tell you how many loans I've done for him. Well, what happened was he got into a dispute with a cell phone company. The cell phone company reported on his credit report a $60 collection, and it drove his credit score down well over 100 points. Huge difference in the terms of mortgage and what he was eligible for. So when he comes back to me, needs to borrow a couple $100,000 to buy the next property that he wants to buy, guess what? We've got a huge problem. So had we started this process sooner, we would have been able to catch some of that stuff sooner, and then we end up finding ourselves scrambling to try to fix some of this so that our client can get done what they need to get done. So my little tangent is, don't assume that you've got perfect credit, because more often than not, what happens is there's a little dumb collection that's reported, and it's usually something that's stupid, right? Like in his case, his explanation makes sense. That's great, but it doesn't change your credit score. And guess what? That credit score being how it is impacts your interest rate and terms. So start this mortgage process first, okay? Please, please, please start this process first, because there are so many things that we can fix when we have enough time to go through and work through this process and get things corrected and get things, cleaned up how they should be, so that we can help you get the best mortgage terms. It's really hard to do that when you're backed in the corner because you didn't start this process right away. You get an offer accepted, and all of a sudden we're scrambling to try to get your mortgage approved. But then we're trying to overcome issues that are tied to a credit score, things that were avoidable. So, kind of going back to where I started, pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Pre-qualification means me, myself as a lender, I didn't collect anything from you, short of the information you told me. You told me you work at XYZ company. You told me you make X number of dollars. You told me you have X number of dollars in the bank. You're going to make X number of dollars from the sale of your house. Whatever it may be, I didn't verify any of that information, so I don't really know for sure whether or not you are legitimately pre-approved, okay? But then on the flip side, what happens, I get clients that get ticked off when we ask for a pay stub, or we ask for a W-2, or we ask for a bank statement, or we do some of that legwork up front to try to make sure that you're going to be okay with your loan approval. I have clients that actually get mad about that. Well, I don't know why you need all this paperwork from me, or why you're asking me for all this stuff. Because I'm doing my job, guys. I'm doing my job to take care of you. That's why I'm asking you for this stuff. Because guess what? At some point in time in this mortgage process, you're going to fork that documentation over. So the sooner I can get the information, the sooner I can verify the information, the more accurate and the better the pre-approval you're going to have. So if you have a pre-approval and they haven't asked you for any documentation, I can tell you then your pre-approval was garbage, and you need to immediately get in touch with me so that we can help you, okay? Hey, again, my name is Dan Moralez. I go by Dan, America's Mortgage Man. Phone number is 616-931-4629. My NMLS number is 709729. You can find me online at danmoralez.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. And, of course, Northpointe Bank is equal housing lender. Now, hey, before I go, all right, I don't do this enough, and I'm going to start to do this more. I really want to encourage you, do me a favor, okay? Please write a review for the podcast. There's a lot of you. There are several thousand of you every week that listen to this podcast. And very few of you write a review. So if you can help me out, please, even if you don't get a mortgage from us, if you learned something about the home buying process and something that helped you and educated you about this process, would you please share the podcast with your group of friends? And also, would you please write a review? Let other people find us and let us have the opportunity to help other people. And most importantly, if you're in the market for a mortgage, we would love to have the opportunity to work with you. We lend pretty much throughout the entire country. We have a number of programs and options that a lot of other lenders don't have, and we love to have the opportunity to show you some of those things that we can do for you that maybe somebody else can't, okay? Again, my name is Dan Moralez, 616-931-4629, or danmoralez.com, DANMORALEZ.com. Thanks for listening.